皆さん、こんにちは。私はテイラーです。テシの友達。私は今22歳オーストラリア人です。だから、オーストラリアの現状と私のことを話しています。よろしくお願いします。I live on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, and the Sunshine Coast has a sister city in Japan, which is Tatabayashi in Gunma-ken. I was very, very fortunate to organize a homestay for myself in Tatabayashi, and I actually went to the all-girls high school there, which was absolutely amazing. Right now I'm getting petrol because my car is empty. Petrol in Australia is quite expensive, so I'm going to show you what it's like here. So for my car to fill it up, it will be $56, but I'm hoping to get this down. But this is the price of other things, and this is quite cheap at the moment. The past week it's been up to $2 per litre. In Australia, the 7-Eleven app helps you get fuel discounts. It's called Locking In, but I can find petrol that's cheaper at a different 7-Eleven petrol station, and in Australia 7-Eleven is our fuel station, so we have gas changing, we do soda stream, is our 7-Eleven. Milk, bread, these are Australian necessities. Our shake stations, all of this. Same with our slushies, our frozen drinks, these are very, very popular. Donuts, coffee, a hot food station. Here's the police koban. Right next to it we have McDonald's and a petrol station. In Australia you call it the servo. It's short for service station. We have green parts on our roads in Australia because that's where the cyclists are allowed to ride their bikes on the road. Nissan Navara, very, very, very popular car in Australia, very well loved. Everyone's dream car. Broccoli. Broccoli is quite expensive. So my chili. Hello. 玉ねぎ1キロ。ちょっと高いだね。これが好き。オーストラリア人は肉が大好き。チキンも一番安い。One thing in Australia that we do is that if the fruits or vegetables are ugly, I guess, they sell them for a lot cheaper. Calls on the odd one. これは私の一番好き。So this one is made with Tasmanian ingredients. And this one is also Australia only. これは多分本当に高いと思います。ちょっと心配する。So if it has a yellow tag, it means it's on sale. We have some Japanese food. We got curry, tomiso, sushi. So our fruit and vegetable are quite cheap compared to Japan. $3.80 for this many. In strawberry season in Australia, you can get a kilo for $5. So I just went grocery shopping, and I'm going to show you everything I bought. Well, I'm feeding 4 people and a dog, so this will last about half a week to a week. Some of the things will last a week or 2, but for example, the meat will only last probably 4 or 5 days. We'll make like lunches and dinners and everything with that. In Australia, everyone eats meat at least once a day, but I'm trying to go vegetarian myself, so I bought some tofu, so I'll show you how much that costs in Australia too. Cool. So all of this food here was about $180. I did get some things on special, so I saved about $5 in the chicken. So this will be for meal prep, and this will be for dinners, and that will be dinner as well. Mushrooms, yogurt, this is all the dog food, all meat, but it's on special, so I had to grab a lot. Tofu, this was about $4 in Australia for each one, which is really good. Then we had to restock some cereal because my stepdad is a massive cereal person. I had to restock the cupboard. We've got some cereal, fresh fruit and veg. For all of the veggies was maybe $30 or $40. I try to shop at local grocers so that I give my money back to my community. Strawberries are my favorite food of all time, so I always have to get them. And these are quite expensive, but they're really worth it and just good to keep in the cupboard. It's quite a lot of money, especially because a lot of these things are just components for meal making, which like I'll have to use a lot of my cupboard supplies for, which is completely fine. It's just to spend minimum $180 a week on groceries, it starts to build up. But for 4 people, I feel like that's really good. This week I didn't buy milk, but normally milk, it's getting quite expensive. It's about $4 a litre in Australia, or maybe $4 for 2 litres. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, it was $2.50 for a litre. It was really cheap. I also personally drink soy milk. I use Bonsui from Japan. This is my favourite milk ever. So yeah. So this is another bottle I have from last week. This was probably $5. And normally we buy spinach, but I bought this a few days ago. This is about $5 for a bag. It's only 280 grams. I'll show you what our roads are like. Because this was one thing I really struggled with every time I was in Japan, is how narrow everything is. But in Australia it's very green and spacious and big. But that's one thing that I find Japanese people really struggle with when coming to Australia. So we'll go down the highway. And you almost have to catch a highway to get anywhere. My university campus, which I'll show you a little bit later, it's really bright and spacious and green, and it's lots of native animals come and like play in the grounds there. So there's a few packs of kangaroos. Hopefully I can catch them on. But things like that are super normal on the Sunshine Coast and in more natural bushy areas of Australia. これは私の大学。でかいだね。There's also lots of kangaroos that live here. I'm going to try and hunt them down. Another thing about Australia is that a lot of the uni students will drive. So I drive every day to uni. I come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just because it's about a 10-minute drive. But if I caught the bus, it would be 30 minutes. And it costs the same to park here as it does to catch the bus. No one really catches the buses if you're a student. Could you please introduce yourself and your hobbies?
Well, I'm Caitlin Farmer and I'm a horse rider. I've been doing it for my whole entire life, basically.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Is it hard to balance that with like study as well?
Well, it's my first day at uni.
Oh my god, welcome.
So we're just getting used to that lifestyle of uni.
Do you live alone or do you live with family?
I still live with my parents. My beautiful boyfriend lives with me as well.
Nice.
We've got 5 people in our house. My mum, my sister, and dad, me and my partner.
Yeah.
And I don't plan on moving out anytime soon.
Would you say that that's definitely on set or like influenced by the current cost of living crisis and all of that? Or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If I had the money to move out, I love my parents, but I'd move out.
Yeah.
But it's too expensive to now.
And do you work as well? Or?
I do. I'm a dairy farmer, so I work morning milking. Starts at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I leave home about 4:30 in the morning, and then I finish around. Say today I finished at 11 o'clock and came to uni. And then I'm meant to go back up for afternoon milking, which is commencing at 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Like we milk from 2 a.m. depending on the heat, 2 to 3. Then I'll come home and write and study.
Yeah. Does the like Australia weather impact the milking a lot? Like you mentioned because of the heat?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The heat like affects the amount of milk the cow produces, which then affects the amount of money we get paid for the milk, basically. Do you have your own car? Like, do you commute from work to uni and like back again? I do. I have my own car. I'm on my green peas, and I'm just my last year on my green peas. Yeah. And how much do you spend per week on fuel, if that's right? A lot, right? It's expensive at the moment. Absolutely. Yeah. I spend about $60 on fuel a week.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview. I make sure to show my love for Japan with Rengoku and Jishigitane. So I work as a disability support worker and I'm currently studying nursing at university. So I'm a 3rd-year nursing student. This is a really popular career in Australia, but it's really busy and it's very hectic, but I'm so excited to continue my future into this field. Currently, as a disability support worker, I do private care work, and I do about 30 hours a week, and my take-home pay is about maybe around 1,000 AUD per week. One thing about Australia with the cost of living right now, I would personally say that making that $1,000 a week is probably a benchmark to be able to live safely and like good. If you're making less than that, you can get by, but you have to really be mindful of your budget and your hours and stuff. But my old job, I used to do I do 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. and I'd do that 3 or 4 days a week, and then I'd be done, which is really great. But now I kind of do 6 days a week as well, so it's a little bit of a give and take. You have to pick something that suits you. But I also know that saying that working 30 to 40 hours a week probably doesn't sound like much compared to the Japanese working culture. I've heard of how scary and dangerous the conditions of like overwork can be, but in Australia, the amount of work opportunities for like either retail, hospitality, the amount of education and employment opportunities are insane, and they're growing really rapidly. If I could change anything about my lifestyle in Australia, probably the affordability of it. I'm very lucky that I work for myself and I get the hours that I do. And the amount of money I earn, like I've had to study and work really hard for, but if the affordability, like if I could afford to live by myself and look after myself individually, like independently, that would be really important to me. One thing that Australians are really struggling with at the moment is renting and like finding houses that are affordable. So for example, I still live at home with my family. I did live independently from the ages of 17 to 19 or 20, I think, and I moved home on my 20th birthday just because the cost of living and the rent was getting quite high. So when I was living by myself, I think I was paying about $250 a week, and that was including bills. And I would have like my own bathroom, bedroom, but I would be sharing a kitchen and a living space with other people. To afford to be able to live independently like by yourself in Australia, you probably need about $400 a week just for rent, and that's not including bills and things. So you will see a lot of people my age and even people older than me living in share accommodation or living with other families, like 2 or 3 families in one house. A lot of my co-workers, they've like either moved back in with their parents and they've got kids of their own, so they've got 3 generations living under one roof. I'm not sure how common that is in Japan, but it's becoming a massive political discussion in Australia of how Australians can afford to live independently and afford their own houses and afford to have their own spaces. So if you're coming here, I would definitely recommend trying to sort out accommodation beforehand, and you might have to share with other people. And I think Australians aren't as clean and tidy as Japanese people are, so that would probably be one thing I look out for. In Australia, most of the cars have boring colours such as white or black or grey, or even like reds and blues, but they keep them very simple due to the damage and the heat from our sun. In Australia, the UV, the danger of the sun is very, very high, so, and it is very, very hot, so your car, they always put special paint on them, and paint that's not going to get too hot so that it doesn't get damaged. The beach is 5 minutes away, the shops are 10 minutes away, my work is 10 minutes away. I'm very, very lucky with where I live, but this is my beautiful suburb. We used to have koala signs because they used to live here, but unfortunately they are now extinct in this area, and they're an endangered species. これはオーストラリアの寿司屋。どっちがいいかな。お好み焼きが好き、たこ焼きも好き。アプリはこれ大好き。どっちがどっちオーストラリアの寿司サイズはもっと大きいかもしれない。これだけ多分3000円頃。So hi guys, my name's Taylor. Thanks so much for having me. Could you tell me a little bit about yourselves, your hobbies, interests?
See. I do a lot of gaming. Kind of a bit on my Nintendo Switch and a bit on my computer.
Do you have any like hobbies other than like what else do you enjoy other than gaming?
Long walks.
Long walks.
Extremely long walks.
Where do you like to go walking?
I like walking at night,
Yeah.
and I like just walking anywhere from like 2 to 4 kilometers
Oh my God.
away from my home.
Nice.
I prefer walking at night because there's
Yeah.
less people out.
Yeah.
I'm Tom.
Hi.
Hobbies. I like going to the beach.
Yeah.
Pretty outdoorsy.
Yeah.
Hikes, walks,
Yeah.
climbs, walk along the beach. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a Sunny Coast local?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been for like 2 years now. You know, Sunny Coast has got, it's so widespread, and you've got everything from like you've got the beach, and then 20 minutes inland you've got the hinterland. So it's got that real contrast from, you know, coastal to rural.
Yeah. How are you guys both going with the current sort of cost of living crisis and like rent, groceries, petrol, things like that? Do they impact you much?
Oh, big time. Yeah, you really
Yeah.
do notice it. I'm in a lucky situation where I've got a pretty, you know, decent paying job.
Yeah.
I live with a single mum, and you can really see it in her like weekly budget, the impact
Yeah.
that it does have, especially especially groceries.
Yeah,
You go
yeah.
see a shop and how little you get for so much, so much money.
Yeah,
now.
definitely. Would you like how many hours do you guys work on
I do
average a
20
week?
hours a week.
20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And,
I'm a full-time student.
yeah, true. That's a full-time job in and of
Yeah.
itself. So have you guys ever been to Japan before or going?
No, but I'm going to Japan soon in a
Wonderful.
few months.
Do
Yeah.
plan to at one point in my life.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been told that Akihabara would be great for me.
Yes, I feel like you would enjoy it. And like the Harajuku, Shinjuku areas, you would love them. Especially the fashion as well, like would match your cute skirt. Whereabouts are you going in Japan when you go over?
So I fly into Tokyo,
Mhm.
staying a few, like 4 nights in Tokyo,
Yeah.
then down in Kyoto, and then Osaka,
Okay.
and then back to Tokyo.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I'll try and do like a heap of day trips from Kyoto and Osaka.
Yeah.
But I'm really keen to check out Tokyo because I do love the city,
Yeah.
and to be around that many people and that kind of craziness.
Yeah.
You know, there's signs everywhere. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you guys so much for your time.
No
I really
worries.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, guys. Could you guys please introduce yourselves to me?
さきです。
みんなで
Hi, konnichiwa. So, what brings you guys to Australia?
もともと日本の大学で勉強してたんですけど、ディズニーチャンネル見て英語が好きだったっていうのもあって、こっちで英語で勉強したくなってここに2年前3年前に来ました。
Really? Oh my gosh. And then are you Saki-san?
2020年の森林火災でコアラが漏れてるのを見てすっごくショックで、それで動物保護をやりたいと思ってきました。
Oh, cool. What do you enjoy about the lifestyle in Australia?
一番好きなのはみんながすごい人生楽しそうにしてるのと、服装とか見た目とかを全然気にせず、なんかビーチとかでも体型気にせずに水着で泳いでたりとか、そういうとこはすごい素敵だなと思って好きです。動物がいっぱいいるところです。
Hey, so that's good. And how do you guys deal with like the cost of living and like how expensive Australia and the coast can be?
本当家庭の環境によると思うんですけど、自分はすごくラッキーで、本当親とかになってもらってるので、でも友達で本当バイト掛け持ちしたりしてる人もいるので。
そうですか。
私は奨学金を借りてここに来てるから、今はそこまで心配はしてないけど、でもやっぱ高いなと思うので、大学で毎週月曜に無料の食材とかを配ってるのがあるから、それにはめっちゃ積極的に行って全部もらって帰って。
And could you compare like your hometowns and where you're from to the Sunshine Coast?
私の家も意外と海岸に近いんですけど、海がこっちの方が綺麗なのと、やっぱ雰囲気が本当にゆったりしてて、自分はこっちの方がちょっと好きかなって思うんですけど、日本は本当に食べ物が美味しいので。
So whereabouts in Japan are you from?
神奈川県です。
神奈川県。ああ、そうですか。And you as well?
私は長野出身
長野
で、海がないところで育ったので、いまだに海見ると結構感動するぐらい綺麗だなと思うのと、あと山に囲まれてるところなので、それもここ山あるけどそこまですごい山ではないから、そこも結構景色が違うなって思います。
And like now that you've been here for 3 years, was it in 2 years? Would you like? Do you want to go back to Japan to live there permanently, or would you rather stay in Australia, or much like just travel between a lot, or?
めちゃくちゃ迷ってて、 決めらんないですね。いやまあ行き来できたら一番いいなとは思うんですけど、まあどうなるかって。私は就活をもう終えてて、来年の4月から大阪で働くので、今年が最後なんですけど、また旅行では戻ってきたいなってこっちに思います。
Oh, so good. Oh, thank you so much. ありがとうございました。If you come to Australia, I'd really recommend going camping, going four-wheel driving, going hiking, exploring that. It's a massive, massive lifestyle thing in Australia. People really enjoy having the beach right there, the city 20 minutes down the road, and then the outback just behind us so that you can just go and be free. And we'll go camping under the stars, and it's that sort of thing is really important to me. It's really just my mental well-being. So many opportunities for work and education in Australia, and I believe that we have a really good working holiday visa and relationship with Japan, where they actually really encourage Japanese visitors to come visit and stay and really try to welcome people into the country. They also, when people start coming to Australia, they set up English learning centres just to help give you a head start. One thing, if I can recommend anything, if you ever consider looking at coming to Australia, would be to do like a water safety course. One thing that I absolutely adore about my Aussie lifestyle is that I'm currently 5 minutes from the beach. If I got in my car and drove, I'd be 5 minutes there. I'm on a coast, so I'm surrounded by beaches, mountains, waterfalls, rainforests and everything. I live in a very natural area, but I think Australia is quite famous for how like deadly it is and how dangerous our wildlife can be. So one thing, if you ever consider coming here, would definitely be looking at ways to keep yourself safe and like stay out of those situations that could become dangerous. Personally though, I've never had a situation where I felt bad or scared or unsafe. We are very fortunate to live in the beautiful country that we do, and I believe that we actually have the highest pay in the world, highest median wage, but all of those positives also are counteracted by the negatives in that Australia is a very expensive country to live in, unfortunately. But even despite that, I think it's 100% worth it, even just to travel and explore. It's definitely a really beautiful place, and I'd love to welcome anyone. If anyone's interested, love to talk more about it. The things I miss about Japan and like the cultural sort of things that are so different to Australia, I guess one thing for me would be the expectations on everyone. Everyone has a lot of respect for each other in Japan, and everyone's very quiet and mindful of each other's spaces and like privacy. For example, if you're on the train, everyone's really mindful of each other. If you forget something, so on my school trip, one of my fellow classmates actually lost their passport, and we had a really lovely Japanese lady. I think she traveled about 4 hours. She found our passport, saw the location that we were going to be staying at, brought the passport 4 hours away to give it to us to make sure that it got to us safely. And that level of dedication, respect and care you wouldn't really find in Australia, or you'd find it in different ways. That's probably one of my favourite things about Japan. My second favourite would probably be the mix of aesthetics. So I've come to learn that I'm not much of a city person. I love it for a day trip, but I hate how busy it is. But I went and stayed in Sapporo for like a couple days and doing some onsen experiences up there, and the mix of the beautiful bustling city and then the mountainscapes and the whole aesthetic and scenery was just, I adored it. Like it feels so nice, and it was very different to Australia. Everything is like red and orange and pastel in Japan, whereas in Australia, you can't see right now, sorry, everything is really bright and vibrant green and blue. So it was a really nice change of pace for me and change of scenery. Another thing I loved about Japan is probably the food. I think everyone says that, but it's very different to Australian food. I definitely do miss a lot of things when I go there, but obviously everyone loves a konbini. The drink stands, the vending machines, literally obsessed with them. The fact that there's always a really good restaurant open, and like you can find a good one by seeing if the line's really long. And I love how creative the restaurants in Japan are. I think it's in Shinjuku. My sister and I really wanted to try this like Kuma-chan onsen, and we unfortunately didn't make a booking, but it just looked so amazing and the reviews were outstanding, so we really wanted to try. So that's definitely on my bucket list next time I go. But like compared to Australia, I feel like it's just completely different styles. I do kind of miss the fruit and salad in Australia versus in Japan. It's so expensive to buy things like fruit. In Japan, a lot of the more vegetables are like cooked or roasted or hot, whereas in Australia you can get like a lot more fresh stuff, and that's more what I'm used to. So I've always struggled with that a little bit, and I hate the cost of fruit in Japan versus Australia. I've always struggled with that, but definitely worth the sacrifices. Japan is a beautiful country and I love visiting. Anyway, thank you so much for having me. I'll show you a little bit more about Australia and my day-to-day life in a few more videos. Anyway, bye! じゃあね。